Hey everyone, so this week we're going to be talking about how I got from here to here.
You're just living, man. You're just there in that moment, that special place in time.
That sounds pretty good. So to start off, I guess we should start off with my very first tank I ever got, which, believe it or not, is actually this one right here. No, not this exact tank. I did not get it that recent. It actually used to look a lot different. It used to look a lot like this. And I will show you guys, possibly in a later video, how I got it to look from that to this, a rimless aquarium. So to start off, I was really young. I was probably in elementary school, junior high school, and I randomly just wanted to keep some fish, right? Like we all do. We're like, oh man, I just want some fish. You know, they look so cool. And I never knew, that you couldn't keep certain fish with other fish. And so I would always go to the fish store and always pick out, I want that fish with this one to be like an angelfish with like some sort of danio or a fish that'll just destroy it. Just like you can't really do that, especially in a 10-gallon. I wanted an angelfish, 10-gallon, super small. And so that's kind of how I started. I started out with an angelfish, believe it or not. I did have one in there. His name was Slow-Mo. I know the tank was probably way too small for him, but he was the most abusive fish I ever had. I kept him for years, and I kind of slowly started to drop the hobby. I had all fake gravel. I knew nothing about aquariums. I was just a little tiny kid, but I slowly started to drop it. As I was growing, I grew out of interest of it, and I still had the angelfish, and I actually had another Cory catfish in there. And he was very beautiful. I can show a picture here. And yes, that's a picture of him a lot older, actually, in the new tank he was last in before he passed away. And believe it or not, I kept him for about 9 years. I know, it's probably the oldest Cory catfish I've ever heard of, oldest Cory catfish all my friends have ever heard of. But bottom line is, that angelfish was so abusive, he actually even pecked out his eye. So he only had one eye, and he still lived to be only 9 years old. So fast forward many years, I get married. My wife and I randomly decide, hey, we want some pets. We're living in a one-bedroom apartment, and we want something to take care of, and so we're like, hey, you know what? My tank, my old fish tank, is still at my parents' house. My parents have actually been trying to get rid of it, and the angelfish is still in there. He's starting to pass away, and so is the Cory catfish. And his name was Smooches, by the way, because his mouth, all his barbs got one way because I had no idea how to take care of him. So it looked like his mouth was just trying to smooch all over the rocks. It's terrible. And so we went to go get the tank, brought it back. By then, my angelfish passed away, but we still had our Cory catfish. And so we started with him. I started to do research and started realizing, man, looking at what type of tanks are out there aquascaping. I came across the world of aquascaping, how magical that is. And that I wanted to do that. I didn't want to do fake plants anymore. I wanted to start to do real plants. I wanted to start to actually create a world for my fish that was just like it was in the wild, so that they could live and thrive, not just survive and hope to get the next meal, but to actually thrive, And so that started my journey there into where I am now. So now that I have the 10-gallon going, I have my Cory catfish in there, and he's kind of like all I had at that point. I'm starting to think, hey, let's go ahead and get some fish. Let's see what we can do. And so the first thing we did is we went to the fish store, our local fish store, which at the time we didn't know wasn't the best fish store. We haven't done all our research yet. And so we got, let's see here, we got some glow light tetras because my wife really liked those. And we're like, hey, they're nice, they're decent sized fish, and that's how we have, you guys know, as Barbara over in the other tank, the big pink fish. We also got another one that was a little smaller. And also with those two glow light tetras, glowfish, whatever they're called, we had snails. Now, we loved mystery snails. At this point, it was my newest thing. I never knew that you could keep snails in an aquarium, and I was so excited. So we got a big snail. Of course, we called him Gary. And unfortunately, our glow light, one of our smaller glow light tetra passed away. And then we caught our snail, Gary, that's our other snail we had, eating her, and it wasn't the funnest thing. And then the snail died eventually, probably a few weeks later, I think. And this was all new. Like it really sucked at the beginning. Again, to lose a bunch of fish, and you know, we're like, man, we gotta start over, you know, kind of, you know, we only had one survivor really besides my really everlasting never gonna die Cory catfish that went through hell and back. You know, he ain't leaving us anytime soon. And then we were at the store one day and I saw lamb chopper asboras, and in between that, before we got the lamb chopper asboras, we had multiple snails, and they all ended up passing away. You know, just over and over. I don't know why we couldn't keep mystery snails. I just couldn't do it. And they did have multiple legs, or lay eggs, but they could not. They would not hatch. Of course, they were not fertile. So we got the lamb chopper asboras. We got like 3. We got 3 of them. So they all stayed in this tank. We had Barbara, our big glow tetra, 3 lamb chopper asboras. We had Smooches, our bottom feeder, and I think we had a snail, or we didn't have one around that time. It was kind of wishy-washy. We did have it or didn't have it. And at that point, I started to do some research because I'm like, man, I want, you know, Smooches started to not look very good. You know, his barbs, one, were completely gone. His face was actually starting to peel away, it looked like. His skin was looking bad. He was starting to float weird, like his swim bladder was going bad. So that's when I really started to do research. And at that time, the only plant I had in the 10-gallon was right here, and it was a Amazon sword plant. It was huge and it was dying because I had no idea how to take care of it. Everyone said it would be just fine. And all I had was the stock aquarium setup, which looked again like this, and the quiet flow, Aquabound quiet flow filter, which, as we discussed in the last video, was not very good filter at all, and I had no idea, no clue at all. But I'm not fertilizing the tank. The only thing I'm doing is I'm adding water conditioner, and so I start finding out that the type of gravel I had, that colorful, just cheap gravel you get from Walmart, is not good for the barbs on the Cory catfish. And so now I'm thinking, my wife and I are like, you know, we do want to get a bigger tank, and also I would like Smooches to kind of leave, if he's going to pass away, which looks like he might, in heaven. So that spurred us to start the next tank, which I'll cover in part 2 of this video. But to continue on, once we had that tank all fixed up, it took months for us to get this thing actually up and going, you know, through, and we also got the rim gone in that time. Did a lot of research, found out how to do that because I started to love rimless tanks, was really into plants at that point. I started to get a bunch of baby plants, some moss going up in here, and got some cool rocks, and then finally we got a light, and then we went to what we know now as the Better Fish store, and they're up in Eugene, Oregon. They're called Aqua Serene Pondscapes headquarters. Awesome fish store, amazing fish store. They have amazing staff there. I'll brag about them all day. Not a sponsor, by the way. And they hooked us up. Haley saw these pea puffers in there, and she just fell in love with the pea puffers, and so we got 3 of them. We were kind of like dead in the water because at that point I didn't have any bottom feeders at all, and so I'm thinking, well, let's see how well this goes. And you know, I do research and find out what type of food they ate, and then the tank, since I started feeding them frozen food, the tank just took a dump. It turned from bad to worse. The algae was just uncontrollable, and it was just kind of getting everywhere. And so then we called the fish store, and the guy hooked us up with, which I didn't know was possible to have another type of bottom feeder in here. I thought these pea puffers would eat them, is a Siamese algae eater. And so we got hooked up with 2 of those. And then the latest update, as you guys know, we lost 1 pea puffer prior to water conditions because I didn't put the new filter on yet, which it's right there, running really good right now. And the other Siamese algae eater is still gone. But tank's starting to look great, guys. So we're going to kick off the next video, part 2, talk about the next tank over there, the 29-gallon tank, how that all got started, my struggles with that, which is what you actually see the pictures from, how I got from here to here. And this tank had a similar thing, I just don't have the photo evidence of it. So stay tuned for next week's video, guys, part 2, how I began my story. If you like this video, smash that thumbs up button, hit that bell icon. Why not? You know, even though I upload once a week, every week. Whatever. Do whatever you want. I don't care. See if I care.